Cheers, Gino from Cowboys Coffee Talk. Today I want to discuss and review the NFL draft, and I want to pose the question, what if? What if the Cowboys did not draft CeeDee Lamb, and how the draft would have played out for them? So we're talking NFL draft and asking the question, what if the Cowboys did not draft CeeDee Lamb, and how the draft would have played out from there? Now, I pose this question every year, and this year's a lot different than other years because there's no Taco Charlton over TJ Watt. There's no Tristan Hill over Juan Thornhill. The consensus from fans, experts, is that the Cowboys pretty much nailed this draft and did better than we would have ever expected. So I'm not complaining here. I could always split hairs and say maybe they should have picked Christian Fulton instead of Trevon Diggs. In reality, both of those would have been great picks where they selected them. And across the board, experts, evaluators have given them top grades. So not complaining, just exploring the possibility here. Let's quickly review who they did draft. First, of course, there was Oklahoma wide receiver CeeDee Lamb, which surprised a lot of people because they went with the best player available over positions of more immediate need. That really set the tone for them for this draft, and players just fell to them where they thought they'd be gone by the time they drafted. So then second round, you had Trevon Diggs, the cornerback out of Alabama. Third round, defensive tackle Neville Gallimore out of Oklahoma. Fourth round pick, cornerback out of Tulsa, Reggie Robinson the second. And then they traded back into the fourth round to get Wisconsin center Tyler Biadasz. Fifth round pick, defensive end Bradley Anae out of Utah. And then the seventh round pick, quarterback Ben DiNucci out of James Madison. So, again, you can't really complain about the draft haul they got. But the one what-if scenario that I'd like to propose today is a trade-back scenario. Jerry Jones did say that he got 3 different trade offers when CeeDee Lamb was on the board, and they decided they were going to go ahead and pick him. They couldn't pass him up. But let's imagine they did trade back. Now, with 3 different trade offers, you have to imagine you're going to get good value, probably better value than the trade value chart would suggest. I'm imagining at least 2 of those teams, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings. Eagles selecting 21st overall, the Vikings 22nd and 25th. So let's just simplify it and assume that it's one of those teams. They're able to secure an additional draft pick, and let's just say it's a second round pick, which would be either 53rd or 58th. So let's play out that scenario. If they do trade back, obviously CeeDee Lamb gets selected with the 17th pick by that team. And then K'Lavon Chaisson, the defensive end out of LSU, who would probably be the next option, he gets picked by the Jaguars. So Cowboys are on the board. There's a lot of players between there and between pick 51 that were options for them. They could have went safety, Grant Delpit or Xavier McKinney. I don't think they go that route. It seems like the position's being devalued. Not a single safety was drafted in the first round. Maybe an edge rusher if they liked one, Gross Matos. Maybe even the linebacker out of Oklahoma that they were fond of, Kenneth Murray. I'm sure that would have upset a few fans, but that's possibly an option. My thoughts are they stick with the pick they made at 51, Trevon Diggs. He's not the highest player on the board for them, but he wasn't at pick 51. They actually said Neville Gallimore was slightly higher on their board. Cornerback is an immediate need for them. I don't think many people expected Diggs to be there at 51. So for him to be a late first round pick, early second round, I think that would have been the expected range. I think they pulled the trigger there. It does change the tone of the draft for them if this is the case, but they have an extra pick, so maybe that compensates them for passing up on talent like CeeDee Lamb. So now we're at pick 51. At that point, Trevon Diggs and Neville Gallimore were very close, according to Stephen Jones. In this case, you've already picked Trevon Diggs. I think Neville Gallimore now becomes your 51st pick instead of pick number 82. Then the next pick, almost immediately after, a lot of different ways you can go here. I'm going to propose that at either 53 or 58, they select the best remaining wide receiver on the board. And for me, that's Denzel Mims out of Baylor. He's the last guy with true like number one wide receiver potential. Now, Cowboys really need a slot receiver, and Mims isn't a slot receiver. But at this point, it's a luxury pick. It's an additional pick. It's good value, so I can see them going that route. Mike McCarthy mentioned players over scheme, so I could see that being the scenario. Then moving on to pick number 82, Reggie Robinson III, who they selected in the 4th round. He was a guy that McCarthy described as being worthy of being discussed with the guys drafted in the 1st and 2nd round. Will McClay hinted that was his pet cat. That was his favorite player. He's got special teams value. I think they like him so much that they're willing to draft him in the 3rd round with pick 82. Now, your 4th round pick, instead of selecting Reggie Robinson the 2nd, who you already have, you don't have to trade up now. You can select Tyler Biadasz about 20-something spots earlier than you traded up to get him in the actual draft. So I think he becomes the 4th round pick. So you still got 2 5th round picks now. The first one, I believe, would be Bradley and I think that consistent with that, again, great value. A player that maybe didn't test as well or wasn't as athletic, but was very productive. So 5th round, the value is still good for him there. I think they stick with that pick. And then for their 2nd 5th round pick, I'm suggesting they double dip a wide receiver, James Prochet out of SMU. So in this scenario, they've drafted Denzel Mims, but Prochet fits that slot receiver mold, so you have 2 receivers. And then with Mike McCarthy being so fond of Ben DiNucci, I think he remains your 7th round pick. So if you compare these 2 drafts, what actually happened and the what if scenario if they traded down, not really much difference here. Basically CeeDee Lamb on one side and then 2 receivers, Denzel Mims and James Prochet on the other. Normally I think 2 players is better than 1, but in this scenario I'll stick with the potential all-pro, the guy that can play inside and out, CeeDee Lamb. I think they made the right decision here. If this is how it played out, maybe you think it might have played out differently. Maybe they can get their safety, Grant Delpit. Maybe they can get a tight end like Devin Asiasi in the 3rd round. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a comment in the comment section. Like, subscribe. Look forward to discussing more things and all things Cowboys in the future. Until then, farewell. Appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in and stay safe, everyone.